Welcome to the Stumbling Forward podcast. Progress isn't always linear, and it's rarely perfect, but it gets us where we need to be. I'm your host, Erika Taylor-Beck, the founder of Authentic Foundations, a business dedicated to creating online courses and one-on-one coaching to improve the way that we view and do leadership. Hey everybody, welcome to Stumbling Forward. I am Erika, the host, and today I am talking with Derek O'Shea, and I think that you all will really enjoy this episode. Derek, hello, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here, and I'm excited to share a little bit about what you do since you and I have already experienced that together. So, you want to share your secret about what you do?
Yes. Okay, so I am an energy healer, and what I do is I work with high level leader types, high performers, entrepreneurs as well, and I help them basically break free from anxiety, imposter syndrome, and self doubt by way of healing from their past trauma and releasing deep-rooted subconscious limiting beliefs that's actually creating their anxiety. They're creating the imposter syndrome so that they can move forward and lead, create, put the vision out there from a place of pure confidence and inner peace.
I think it is extremely needed because there are a lot of folks out there who aren't maybe realizing that these things are in their energetic fields and that they are impacting them. Because if you don't know that it exists, you don't know that you need to heal it or fix it. And I think it's really
Exactly.
important to get to the root of some of the stuff where I just don't understand why I'm not getting past this threshold. I don't understand why I can't move forward. And there's a lot of unseen things that we need to heal and deal with. So I love that that's what you do. But how did you find this? Because again, I don't think many people have maybe heard about it or understand it. So how did you come across all of this?
Okay, so the technique that I mainly use in my practice now is called Theta Healing. So Theta Healing is an energy healing modality that allows us to create these transformations that I just discussed when I was talking about myself. So Theta Healing allows us to identify subconscious limiting belief systems and release them on an energetic level. When we do that, we're also healing past traumas, etc. So that's the technique that I use, which is insane. It's incredible. But how I got into this was I really just went through my own dark period in life around the age of 22. Yeah, around the age of 22, I just went into my dark night of the soul. I suffered a lot of really bad anxiety, a lot of fear, but also I was going through a lot of weird, unexplainable physical issues. I was going through some very scary, weird and unexplainable health issues, kind of like an health crisis, and it was all connected to my nervous system. I was going through stuff that I couldn't really get answers for. I tried the traditional approach of going to the good old doctor and figuring out what's wrong with me and what kind of pills can I get or what medicine can I get to help this. And long story short, I couldn't get any results or any answers, To keep it short, what I did was I discovered a whole world online, many where I started on YouTube, of all these alternative ways that we can actually heal symptoms, physical symptoms that we're going through that you can't seem to fix or resolve, by way of resolving past traumas that you've had, by way of just rebalancing the energy in your body. That's where it all started. I found discovered the amazing technique that's called EFT. That's the first technique I discovered online, which I basically tried out to see if it could support me and help me, because I was kind of desperate at that point. So I was in the space, I'll try anything at this stage. Because back then, I wouldn't describe myself as someone who was very conscious, open-minded or spiritual. I didn't even know anything about alternative ways to heal or whatever,
Right.
I was probably just your very generic, normal, following a traditional route in my life, success or whatever, until this happened. And then once I started to just go for it, once I found once I discovered EFT, I said, okay, let's go for this. Let's try this and see if it works. And long story short, it literally did work. It helped me. It improved what I was going through to the point that I said, okay, let's invest in this. And then that was one of the steps towards discovering the technique that I have now, which a year or two after I initially started my own healing And I discovered this technique then through a close friend who had been working on me before with EFT. And once I discovered this technique, Theta Healing, it was like, wow, okay, this is the best thing I've ever experienced. It's the type of modality that after you have the very first session, you feel like, wow, you feel the change, you feel different. You start to get the results straight away.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So basically that's how I came into doing what I do. From that point on, it was okay, let's just go ham with this. And I just focused on my own healing basically from that point, and I really spent a few years just focusing on working on my own stuff. Slowly but surely, it came to a point where I was like, okay, I need to just do this. I need to help other people do this because it's like epic, so amazing that this can be something that I can put out into the world too.
That's incredible. And it's an interesting story. And it's been fascinating to hear how many people who are doing spiritual work now would not have described themselves as spiritual people before, but something led them to figuring out or finding out these abilities and gifts and just this energy pieces. And now they're using this in their daily life and sharing it with others. And so I think that's awesome that how people are coming into it. I hate that you had to go through headaches and physical symptoms and something that was extremely painful for you to go through that led you to this. But it's nice that you found the path that took you there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm so grateful that I had to go through that dark time because my life wouldn't be the amazing thing that it is today. I wouldn't be the happy, extremely just baseline happy person that I am, if I
Yeah.
didn't go through that, even though it was a very dark period in my life. And at one point it felt like, okay, there's no way out of this. But there was. Like, did everything just change and work out way better than I ever could have imagined.
Yeah, that's awesome. You and I talked about before we started to record, if you just write it out and think about what am I supposed to be learning from this? What am I doing with this? Just trust that things are unfolding as they should. Often it will end up being much better than what we had even anticipated. And so it
Yeah.
is very worth it to go through those trying moments, but in the moment it's hard to see the benefit until you're on the other side of it. And then you look back and it all makes sense.
Yeah, totally,
That's
totally.
awesome.
It's great perspective as well,
So,
looking
so
back
you
in
mentioned
hindsight.
now theta healing is what you do, and that's what you and I had done together. Can you explain a little bit about theta healing in general? So, for someone who has never heard about it, has no clue what you're talking about, can you define it a little bit?
Yeah, so it's basically an energy healing technique, which helps us to release subconscious limiting beliefs and past traumas, negative emotions, feelings, energies that are stored in our energy in our subconscious, but it allows us to do it very, very, very fast. And when we do this, that's where we get the transformation. It allows us to literally transform a specific topic of our life, an area of our life, as long as we find out what's at the root of it, what's at the bottom of it, what's the belief there that you created that's holding this together. And when we identify what that is, Theta Healing allows us to actually just gently release it. It's so gentle, like it allows us to gently release it, and then also it allows us to instill new, more positive and empowering belief systems into our subconscious. It's like we're downloading our subconscious with new beliefs, new positive feelings that are way more empowering, that will help us to create what it is that we actually want moving forward. And the key thing with this technique is that it's just so fast. So fast that you can get results for people that they could not have gotten from years of therapy. Like I've worked with many clients who have done therapy for years and years, and they always seem to tell me the same thing. They're like, wow, like I've been to therapy for so long, all these years, and in just a few sessions that I've done with you, I've gotten like amazing results. It's insane. That's the key thing with it, it's rapid.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what you and I talked about at the beginning, where if you don't know that it exists, you can't really heal it. So if you're going to therapy and you have a therapist, and I'm a huge proponent for therapy for a lot of reasons, but if it's something that you don't know about or maybe have blocked and you can't talk about it, so you can't bring it up and share, this is the experience, this is why I'm feeling this way, how do I remove it? Because you don't know that it's there. And so you can only get so far in therapy, and they can only help you so much if you can bring up the topic or the point that you need to address. And that's why I think the theta healing is so powerful.
That's very true. There's two parts to that. You can, what you just said is that you can go to therapy and not know what is the root of the issue. Okay, that's one thing. And with theta healing, with the way we dig in to the actual issue, it allows us to actually uncover the actual roots for the client within the subconscious quite easily, and then we can clear it. But then also on that topic, it's like people can uncover the root of something in therapy just by talking to the therapist, and if the therapist is clever enough to ask the right questions, you can get to the root of something. However, I feel that the only issue with that is the limitation there is that with conventional therapy, if you get to the root of something, you get to the root of it. I know this because I've had clients tell me this, that this is what would happen for them. You can get to the root of it, and then okay, you get the awareness of this is why this is happening in my life, and it's because of this, and I felt like this. But once you get to the root, okay, what do we do next with this information? Because we've just gotten to it, and now I know that this is there, and I'm at the root. I'm more or less triggered because I'm back in that moment. Okay, but what next? It can get left there with therapy. You'll gain some clarity, some awareness. You'll have the awareness. Okay, so this is why I have this deep-rooted anxiety, because of these experiences that we've just talked about. Okay, but then my clients, when they come to me, they're at the stage where they're like, I know what it is, but now I want the solution. I actually want to be free from it. And with theta healing, with the work that I do with my clients, that's what we're actually doing. We're actually giving them the freedom from it so that they can put it to bed, nip it in the bud, and not be affected by it anymore. And that is the most beautiful thing about this.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And that's a good way to explain it. So you and I, just to share a little bit about what we talked about, I talked with you about general childhood stuff that had happened that ultimately, as an adult, left me feeling very much safer out of sight. I like to stay invisible, didn't like to be seen, I don't like to make waves, did not feel like it was comfortable or safe to express my emotions or opinions, because it was kind of ingrained in us as kids that keep status quo, and that everybody else's feelings and their comfort was more important than expressing anything emotionally, because emotions make people uncomfortable, and bringing up anything that's negative, anything that's not positive, makes people uncomfortable. So we don't talk about those things. So from a really young age, I learned that keep everything inside, be extremely independent, learn how to heal your own stuff. And not that it was completely cold childhood. I did have parents that did try to talk to me about stuff, but it was still very basic. We never really addressed tough topics. Now, as an adult, especially as an entrepreneur, it's really hard for me to be seen and to be comfortable advocating for myself and endorsing myself, because it's not something I've ever learned how to do. You and I worked on addressing that root issue there and healing that. That was something that you and I had talked about last week.
Yeah.
And it was an awesome experience, because I have more recently started to understand that this was something that I was feeling. I'm about to be 42 next month, and I had no clue for 35 plus years that this was something that I was doing, and that this is how I felt. And I thought this is who I am. And then I realized, looking back, and there was a key moment in childhood that we talked about, but it was that situation that made me feel, okay, this makes people uncomfortable. We don't share this stuff. We don't talk about these things. And the takeaway was, I'm not important enough to advocate or to speak about these things. That's really hard, to be a human being and feel completely not valid, not important, not worthy.
Of course, yeah.
And I have to work really hard to feel like I've earned my worth. So I was a really high achieving employee. I was in leadership, I had a good salary. And then when I quit my job, that was really hard, because who am I now if I don't have this accomplishment of my career? And then I started a business. Wow. And who the hell is Erika trying to go out and sell leadership training and coaching? And I was thinking, they're not going to want to work with me because I'm just me. And that mindset, and logically, I know that I have a lot to offer and that I have a lot of experience and great valid things. But this limiting belief that I had from this wound was, you're not cut out for this. What are you trying to do? And it was something that I was realizing was really holding me back from where I need to go and where I want to go and who I want to be.
And thank you for sharing all of that. And you also just highlighted a key point with this work too, is that you didn't even consciously realize that would have been something that was actively holding you back. that's another part of it, you know? It's like a lot of people aren't even aware that their subconscious can be holding them back and running the show. So many people are not aware. The majority of the clients that come to work with me are people that are aware of it on some level, and they know that something has to be done. They're ready. There's actually a lot of people who have the same kind of stories that you just went through, is that they wouldn't even know, they wouldn't even be aware of it. So for anyone listening to this who's like, maybe it's getting the wheels turning for them, I would just say, ask yourself, what is not working for you in your life that maybe now you could actually think, okay, could my subconscious here be affecting this or running the show in this? What does this remind me of that I actually experienced earlier in life? What is this reminding me of within my life or in my past? And those questions will help you to just shine a little bit of a torch on where to go with that and what it could be connected to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. It's a powerful stuff. During the session, when you and I talked about it, I don't really cry a lot. And part of that might be just because of how I grew up. So I'm not much of a crier, but I started to cry in that conversation because it's hard to share and talk about. This is a deep-rooted wound that I had, 37 years that I was carrying, and didn't realize that that's what it was. I didn't realize it was a wound. And by the end of the session, I felt a lot lighter because you were downloading more positive experiences, more positive feelings about that. So we took away the negative things and then downloaded some more positive feelings about that, more confidence. And at the end, I felt much lighter and didn't feel like I needed to cry anymore, felt much happier. But during the week, I had what I defined as a tower moment where I was feeling so frustrated with the business because it's been 6 months, which is still really new in the grand scheme of things. But I was feeling frustrated and I was tired and burned out because I'm doing 2 podcasts. I'm trying to advocate for the business and social media and all of the things. And it just didn't feel like it was getting anywhere. And I wanted to just quit all of it and go back to a traditional job. I think I needed to have that moment to shed those feelings and things that maybe I had been carrying. And because I was frustrated, and I'm not really someone who gets angry. I was angry, I was frustrated, I was feeling impatient. I really wanted to flip my desk and just punch my monitors. What is going on? Where are these feelings coming from? And I think it was a release that I needed to have from the stuff that maybe I was frustrated. There's some grief that comes with growth that we don't always talk about. And I think I was grieving and frustrated about the things that I was carrying, the things that I didn't do or couldn't have done because I was being held back by this stuff. You know, it was just one session. And I know you mentioned that one session can make a difference, but if you go multiple times, it really helps to heal and clear. But I wanted to really highlight how much happened after just one session.
Yeah, and that is the power of this work. I mean, and we only did 30 minutes. I mean, when I work longer term with clients, we would do like sessions over a 3-month period, and that is where you really start to create a brand new identity, brand new life through healing all the stuff that's holding you back and stepping into whatever it is that you want. Whether you're looking for to connect with more self-confidence, self-worth, less anxiety, it's all just a matter of getting to the root of why it's all there and doing that. Yeah, so one session can really flip the script for you, to be honest. It can be amazing. I've had many one session wonders. I even helped one particular client literally stop. I helped one client actually stop having panic attacks after one session, because the root of this client's panic attacks was literally connected to one specific experience that they had in childhood that was constantly replaying in the subconscious. That's why the panic attacks would happen. And once we healed that event, they literally stopped, you know?
Wow.
So yeah, that literally does talk about the power of this work. And then something else just came to me there as you were just talking about all the feelings and all of the emotions that were coming up in the days after the session. It downloaded for me maybe that this could have been why that was. Maybe this is you actually experiencing all of these emotions and feelings now and feeling safe to just experience them and letting them come up. Because I think the theme that we actually discussed was that it wasn't good to talk about things and to let your feelings come up and be expressed. So maybe you were pushing them down for so long, and whatever we unlocked and healed in the session is actually just allowing all of, like, when you start to feel things now, it's just allowing them to come up, because you don't feel that it's not safe to let them out and let them be seen. Makes sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I've had a lot of reasons why I should have been angry, but I felt so frustrated and I could not figure out why, because nothing had happened that day. Nothing was out of the ordinary, but I was so annoyed. And I have a pendulum that I check in with my higher self. And I was annoyed even with my own pendulum and with my higher self. I was just so frustrated with, I just need a clear answer. Why is this so hard? And I didn't recognize myself for a little bit because I was so frustrated and so easily annoyed. And I have a ton of patience. But just that day for a few hours, I was angry and I was annoyed. And once I felt all of that and let it go, then I was upset and crying because why am I feeling all of this? But maybe it was that it was just, look, this is what it feels like. Processed it. I shared my feelings. I cried openly. And then I was, okay, I feel better now. And I'm not really ready to give up, but I just needed to feel it. And it was honest and genuine.
I'll also say this as well. You need to normalize having those thoughts, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur.
Yes,
And
for
you
sure.
have to normalize that some days you're going to feel like, let's burn this shit to the ground, let's give this up, let's just throw it all away now. Some days you're going to feel like that.
Yes.
Because that's a different podcast episode, is being an entrepreneur. Like, give yourself that grace of and knowing that, okay, I'm going to feel like this some days. Like, it's unavoidable because not
Yeah.
everything is going to be perfect and it's not linear either, you know,
Yep.
the
100%.
journey of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and logically I know that, and I've talked about it with other folks, and I know it is common, but that was the first time that I had felt it
Okay.
since I started. And so I logically, again, I knew that it was normal and that it would happen, but I couldn't explain why because nothing had happened that day that should have triggered that feeling. It was actually a really good day, but all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm done with all of this. And it didn't make sense to me why I was feeling that out of nowhere. I guess life kind of happens and rolls with it. But I'd ride the wave and say, okay, it'll be better later, and we'll figure out from there where we go. But you're right, it is 100% a very normal
Welcome
feeling
to the club.
for entrepreneurs. Yeah, they don't put that in the brochure when they try to get
No, they
people into
do not.
entrepreneurship. They do not share about the mental breakdowns you have along the way.
That is so true.
No, but so you mentioned earlier that you work with high performing folks, and I remember you telling me that you prefer to work a lot with folks with anxiety. That's kind of a sweet spot for you. Is
Yeah, I really do love working with anxiety. Mainly because it's just so satisfying and so rewarding to witness someone go from being stuck energetically in like this like survival mode, being
hmm
constantly anxious, constantly afraid, and completely like limiting like themselves, allowing it to sabotage like opportunities, meeting new people, living your life because of anxiety, whether it's social anxiety, whether it's just generalized anxiety, or whether it's anxiety specifically related to one specific thing. Like it's a very broad topic, anxiety, but in general I just love it because I just love to give people that freedom, going from struggling with anxiety to feeling at peace inside is just, it's so rewarding.
I think that's awesome because as a lot of folks have anxiety, and I would have said that I had social anxiety, and I think a lot of it though comes from what you and I already talked about, that wound of not wanting to be seen and feeling very insecure
Exactly,
about
yeah.
being open and genuine. And what if people don't like what they see? Stuff it down and put on this perfect polished appearance. So that was something that I had dealt with for a really long time, was not wanting to go to different situations and scenarios where I would have to be the spotlight,
Or talk
or
about
to meet people.
yourself.
I hate that. Even now, we went to lunch with a friend of my wife's yesterday, and she had asked a question about how the business was going. And I remember feeling, oh my God, the conversation turned to me. And in that moment, I don't want to talk about myself, but then I was stop that. And I answered the question. But that's something that, again, I didn't realize these patterns of preferring to talk to other people about themselves and listening versus being seen.
Totally.
So once you started doing your healing, do you feel like the health issues and everything that you experienced, are they all healed now, or is there
Oh
something that
yeah.
you still experience?
Yeah. So within, I would say like within a year, I was doing sessions whenever I could, slowly but surely. I said slowly but surely because back at that time, I didn't have the resources to go ham in the sense of doing a session every 2 weeks or every one. So I would do sessions whenever I could make that happen. And yeah, I would say within the year, I went from feeling like I was completely sick inside and like my body was broken or my body was malfunctioning to being completely back to normal.
That's awesome.
And I enjoy that even now to this day. Like there was like a point, and it's making me just feel so grateful right now because there was a point where I just felt so ill, like I had terrible like pain all over my body, all central, all focused on my head. My nervous system was all out of balance. My hands had gone numb, and my whole entire body felt freezing cold all the time. I couldn't heat myself up. My body, I was just freezing constantly, like freezing, which was so strange and so scary to me, because this is something that I just don't know how to fix,
Right.
how to change. I had constant nausea, obviously, and it was constant anxiety, no appetite, and wasn't sleeping. It was terrible. This went on for months and months and months until I one day discovered the EFT technique, which that allowed me to like improve and get better. But then it wasn't until I started working with Theta Healing that everything started to resolve way quicker, way faster, because we were going right to the root. So in my story here, I guess the message is whether you're actually suffering with like anxiety or emotional issues, things on a mental level, or whether you're actually like dealing with physical imbalances, physical ill health, there's gonna be a connection to that. Basically, there's gonna be an internal connection. There's gonna be unresolved, unhealed, internal traumas or wounds that are directly correlated with the symptoms and the issues that you're experiencing. And once you actually locate what they are and heal them, then the physical symptoms or issues can start to resolve.
Incredible.
And that's powerful too.
They're all connected. So yeah, if you're feeling the physical or the emotional, if you are pinpointing a change, maybe look at some of this. Can you do the healing for yourself, or do you have to go to somebody else to help you do
I
your own?
can do it for myself, but I don't like to. I prefer to be supported by someone. I prefer to work with someone. If I'm working on something on myself, if I have some things that I want to clear away, like other subconscious blocks and stuff, I will generally connect with another friend who does the same work, and I'll get them to support me in getting that, because they'll be able to see the blind spots that I'm not seeing.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because when you and I met, well, you asked certain questions, and so if you're talking to yourself, it's kind of that limitation of if you're not really sure, how do you ask yourself the right question? So I wondered if it was something that you can do, or if it helps to see somebody that can maybe a more unbiased and objective view to the whole thing.
Yeah, as I said, you can work on yourself. Like people can and people do. I just don't. I prefer not to. I prefer to get an outside perspective.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So when you are working with folks now, do you only do the Theta Healing? You mentioned EFT is how you started getting into it. Do you have other tools that you use, or are you like 100% focused on doing the Theta?
So I am trained in EFT, because obviously that was the first thing that I like discovered that really helped me. But I just wouldn't use EFT anymore, because Theta Healing does the exact same thing that EFT does in a much faster fashion.
Yeah.
You know, it's just way, way, way faster. So it kind of makes the EFT a bit redundant in that sense.
Yeah.
Why would you use the EFT to work on this issue when you can just go straight to the root of the issue and clear and release what's there straight away with Theta Healing? So I just stopped using the EFT and I mainly use the Theta Healing technique. I do bring in a lot of inner child work as well with this. I combine the Theta Healing with inner child work, and that just creates an amazing result, an epic transformation. It can go just that much deeper, you know?
Yeah. I can imagine. I can only imagine how powerful that would be.
Yeah. It's epic. It's really, really, really amazing. Like, I really love doing this work so much.
I'm glad that you do, and I'm glad that our paths cross, because this is fascinating, and I'm excited to help share this with other folks. Before we wrap, is there any kind of final thought that you want to share, anything that you want to put out there? Or, again, I know you kind of mentioned a tip, like if you're feeling this way, maybe it might be worth a look into this, but is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap?
Yeah, I would share this. Whatever it is that you are going through internally that feels like it's a struggle, that feels endless, that feels like maybe you've decided, oh, this is just it, like I just have to deal with this, you know, because I've had a lot of people come to me that have said to me, oh, I just always thought that, oh, that was it, I just had to manage just the best that I can. What I will tell you is that is not true, you know. Whatever it is, I'm going to speak to, let's say it's you're struggling with anxiety and you've just decided, oh, this is just who I am, it's just a part of me, you know. That's not true. That's just what you believe right now because you've had
Right.
it for so long. But you can change it. You can change it all. Trust and believe. I'm doing it every day, helping people.
No, I love that. If you are dealing with anxiety, it's not your natural state. So if you're feeling that,
Of course,
maybe
yeah.
it's worth looking into.
It's created. It's there for a reason. It's there because you believe things are a certain way or fear something specific is gonna happen. And why do you have those thoughts and fears? Based off of past experiences.
If you're constantly feeling fearful or anxious, why would you not want to free yourself from that
Exactly,
and
exactly.
just be at peace, man? So Derek, if people are interested and want to work with you or connect with you or just learn more about what you're doing, how can they find you or reach out to you?
So they can follow me on Instagram. My handle is Derek O'Shea underscore 1111. I can share that link with you to include in the notes. But also, what I have for anyone who's going to be listening to this and wants to experience this, get a taste of this, I'm going to share the link to receive a complimentary 1 hour workshop that I hosted specifically around the topic of anxiety.
Awesome.
And within this workshop, you'll take part in a group energy clearing that will start to move stuff for you and change stuff for you and give you a result right there and then. So
Wow.
it's very it's worth your while downloading this and actually taking part in it. It's free. It's completely free.
This is a really generous offer, so thank you. Yeah, this is really awesome. So definitely take advantage of that, folks. I will include that in the show notes. I will put your link to Instagram on there as well. You're not seeing Derek, but Derek is just a very approachable person. You have a really good energy and someone who just feels very genuine. And he offered to work with me before we did this podcast so we could talk about it. And something that was painful and deep seated for me, but I felt very comfortable sharing and talking about it with you, wearing the questions that you asked. If you're thinking, oh gosh, I don't want to dig in to this stuff, especially with a stranger, I can't stress enough that I did not feel like you were a stranger when we were doing this. I felt like I was a friend. It felt very comfortable. I would say if you are on the fence or just feeling a little bit maybe anxious or, afraid of opening up, don't. This was a very safe feeling and environment, and it was something that I would recommend.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you sincerely. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Well, I will again share all the information so that you can connect with Derek because he is wonderful. So make sure that you do that and download the information that he is sharing. But Derek, thank you so much for the time today and the time last week. I hope that more people take advantage of it because I feel like there's a lot of folks that could benefit from that.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on and thank you for having me. This has been amazing.
This was great. And everybody else, thanks for listening. And I will catch you on the next episode of Stumbling Forward. This episode of Stumbling Forward was brought to you by Ori Ara's Self Care Collective. Real women, real lives, and real self care. It's empowering you to take care of yourself one day at a time. If you are interested in joining the Self Care Collective, there are discount codes on the screen. Stumbling Forward member will get you 20% off your first month's membership, or the Stumbling Forward founder will get you 20% off a lifetime membership.